hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 2099. We're getting up there in numbers, which means tomorrow will be 2100, which means we have 91 days to go till we get to the end of year 6 and the beginning of year 7 of daily lives. Yes. We're getting up there in numbers. So what are we talking about tonight? Tonight we are talking about the power of small stories. So sometimes the most meaningful stories aren't written in history books. They're tucked inside lunchboxes, garden rows, or worn out phrases passed from one heart to another. Not all stories are epic. Some of the most powerful, enduring parts of our legacy come from tiny moments, a smile, a phrase, a smell, a habit. Today we celebrate those small stories, the ones that we might overlook, but that shape us quietly and last forever. So why small stories matter? These are everyday stories that quietly teach us how to live. The way Grandpa tied his shoes and whistled in the morning, the smell of biscuits on Sunday, a phrase your mum said when life got hard. There's just these little things. It might be just a smile, walking past the street and giving somebody a smile. They may seem small, but they carry emotion, tradition, and identity. Maybe it was a certain cologne that somebody would wear, that you always associated with being loved and comforted as well. And yes, some of these small stories can have a negative impact as well. Like a smell could a certain smell might remind you of a bad time that you had in your life, a challenge that you had to face. Examples of small stories could be something like my Nana always hummed the same tune while washing the dishes. I hum it now when I'm anxious. It just helps you calm yourself down. Because when she was calming, and it would be something as simple as she would hum that tune while washing the dishes and you felt safe and loved in that moment when you were there with your grandmother while she was washing the dishes and humming her tune. And now you hum it when you're anxious and it helps soothe you and calm you. It could be that your dad fixed everything with duct tape and hope. And maybe you fix the same ways now and it always makes you smile. My favorite thing is that there's all these different types of tools and stuff that you have that are out in the garage and all that sort of stuff. And I know some of their names, but most of the times they become the thingamabob and the whatchamacallit and the thingamajiggy. And every time I go out to the garage, I'm like, oh, what am I out here to get? Oh yeah, it's a thingamajiggy for the screws. And so I'll open up my toolbox to go where the screwdrivers are. I get my thingamajiggy that tightens or loosens screws. And it makes me smile because I know that if my dad was there, he'd be rolling his eyes at me like, Helen, you know this stuff. But I like to have fun with him. I even got him a t-shirt one time. This is another small story. I got him a t-shirt one time. It had all of these, it had tools and screws and other things on it. And it had names underneath that were like thingamajig, the whatchamacallit, just different names underneath each item. And unfortunately, something happened to his t-shirt and Mum doesn't know what happened to the t-shirt or where it is. And do you think I can find another one? Nope. Haven't been able to find another one like it. So I keep looking. I'm hoping I can find another one before I move back down to New Zealand that I can take with me, so to replace the one that he lost. But he loved that shirt. It could be something like your family only had one rule: don't leave the table angry. That one rule probably saved more times than saved the relationships more times than they realized. It could be something as simple as you always hear marital advice is the bedroom is for love only. Do not be angry in the bedroom. It is a place of peace and comfort and safety and love. So if you're going to be angry at each other, you don't walk into the bedroom until you got everything sorted out. That was another piece of advice that was, that's been passed down. How do these stories get passed on? Reputation, consistency, and presence, not big declarations. They're not. If you think about these small stories, they're just a moment or a minute that happens, and the story gets conveyed to you through an action, through a phase, through a smell, through a taste. I will tell you this: I can even though I've been married, it was this coming December will be 27 years. It'll be 27 years this coming December since we got married. I can still taste that wedding cake. It was such an incredible wedding cake. and it was made by the owner of the restaurant, and it was a chocolate cake that was wrapped in raspberry preserve, and then he'd made a white chocolate fondant icing to go over it, and I'm not a big white chocolate fan, but it was so good. And then they decorated it with the same flowers that we used in the bouquets and the boutonnieres. And I can still taste that cake to this day. It was such an incredible cake. And when I taste that, when I think about that cake and I think of how well it tasted, it reminds me of a beautiful day that we got to celebrate. And, here I am 26 and a half years later, and still being able to taste that cake, still remembering the memories that were made that day with the people that were there, the people who we loved were there helping us celebrate our coming together as a married couple. And it was just such great memories of that day. So that's one way, is through repetition, consistency, and presence, but not big declarations. They become legacy through living, not just telling. So you may convey a small story, or you may not. It could be, you might change a way that you do things because of the impact that that small story had on you. And so now it's becoming a legacy through you living it in a different way. You might not even realize which small story you're passing down right now. Do you know what was small? Just with your hand gestures, your smile, your sparkle in the eyes. I know, I get a mischievous twinkle in my eyes every now and again. But, what is it what small story are you passing down right now? What small stories offer us today? They offer us comfort, identity, a gentle sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. A reminder that legacy doesn't require a platform, it requires presence. Think about that. Legacy doesn't require a platform, it requires presence, being present in the moment, putting the phone down and having something as simple as putting a phone down and giving somebody your undivided attention. Trust me, I know when Zeffie wants me to put my phone down because I can feel her staring at me. So, yes, we put the phone down. So here are some reflection questions for you. They are in the description below. What's one small tradition or habit that reminds you of someone you love? Whenever I hear fairy tales, like Cinderella, Snow White, and the Seven Dwarfs, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, whenever I hear of any of those traditional fairy tales being told, it transports me back to my childhood when my grandfather used to sit us on our knee or around him, depending how many grandchildren were there at the time, and telling us his version of well-known fairy tales. He could tell us Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and it's all the same up until the point of when Goldilocks wakes up and she runs out of the house. Of course, she's lost in the forest. That's how she found their place, because she got lost. So where does she go? She goes further into the forest, gets lost, and ends up in this completely different world. There is no way that it ends like it ends in the story. And every time he would tell any of those tales, the stories would have slight differences to them. The endings would be different. He just had such a vivid imagination. And so whenever I hear those stories, I automatically think of my granddad. If I see butterflies, and I even have sitting on my desk here this rock with this butterfly on it. Whenever I see butterflies, I am reminded of my grandfather. He, years ago, gave me a little enamel painted brooch that had blue stones in it that I think were meant to be blue zircons, or may have been blue zircons. I don't know. I still have the brooch of a butterfly, and that was the first butterfly that I had ever been given as a brooch. But I've always cherished that. So whenever I see butterflies, I think of my grandfather. Whenever I see hummingbirds, I think of Brad. Brad always loved hummingbirds. His goal was to have a place where we could have hummingbird feeders set up in the backyard, so he could sit out on the back porch and watch the hummingbirds coming in and and feeding them and that sort of thing. That was his thing with his with the butterflies. With the hummingbirds. So butterflies reminds me of my granddad, and hummingbirds remind me of Brad. So there's all these little things that you don't know about, that how you have somehow inherited them, and it brings you things. So what's one small traditional habit that reminds you of someone you love? What's a saying, smell, or sound that always brings you back to childhood? What is that for you? What's that saying, that smell, that sound that always brings you back to childhood? What's one small story you've already passed down, whether you meant to or not? And I saw that, and when I saw that question, I was like, oh, what have I passed on already to my grandchildren, which I don't know that I did, or to my nephews, nieces, nephews? What have I passed down to them, whether I meant to or not? I don't know. And in closing, big stories may inspire us, but the small ones anchor us. They are the heartbeat of legacy, pulsing quietly beneath the surface of everyday life. So with that, we are done. We are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. And tomorrow's Thursday. Hang on. Gotta look at the calendar. Tomorrow evening, we will be back at 6 p.m. Pacific time, back in our regular time slot. So go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we will catch you back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific.